This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Peter Cowan. We start with a second group of Ukrainian refugees headed for Newfoundland and Labrador. Ottawa chartered a plane from Warsaw, Poland, which is going to land tonight in Halifax before it backtracks to St. John's. According to the province's Minister of Immigration, Jerry Byrne, 29 of those passengers will be settling in this province. Byrne says there were passengers selected in Poland from a random draw. The flight from Warsaw is expected to arrive in Halifax in about 30 minutes. In other news now, some employers in Labrador West are finding it hard to compete. There are lots of summer jobs that need to be filled, but the town's mines are offering workers a much more impressive paycheck. Here Now's Daryl Dinn has that story.
Companies and organizations in Labrador West are struggling to fill student positions this summer. The town of Labrador City even canceled its summer program due to lack of staff. It's tough to attract workers when the mines in Labrador City and Wabash are paying wages that start at $36 an hour. The local MHA isn't surprised.
Yeah, and it is a daunting task to compete with, a mining giant like Rio Tinto, who, because of their labor contracts, do pay their students very well because, they are required to.
The Chamber of Commerce says it's a struggle for its members. Toby Leon suggests looking beyond students for summer work.
I empathize with them. We went through a lot of employees this winter. It's hard to fill those entry-level jobs, even at significantly more than people pay elsewhere. Kids aren't, the youth aren't here. Maybe we need to be, as a community, maybe we need to be a little more imaginative in terms of the use of some of our retired residents.
The local soccer association says it had to get creative in its hiring, branching out to include high school students.
Within the age dynamics of our kids, we used to have them that they were returning from university. Unfortunately now students are going to mines, so we have lowered the age slightly to accommodate that issue.
It's only been the last 3 years that we haven't had any university students, but it's worked out great. We have a lot of great volunteers who pitch in and help with the mentoring of them.
Jordan Brown says the issue goes beyond summer staffing. It's a people problem, and the town needs more of them.
We just don't have enough people in Labrador West to run Labrador West right now. And this is actually going to be a bigger problem if it doesn't get addressed sooner.
Despite the challenges of finding enough students to fill the available jobs, some organizations say they still plan to go ahead with their summer programs, from theater and dance camp to outdoor sports activities. Daryl Dinn, CBC News, Labrador City.
Well, the weather hasn't exactly been the greatest for a lot of areas, particularly up across Labrador, but this little ray of sunshine is making the best of it by making bread with her mom in Makkovik. Leah, great shot there. Thank you so much for sending that in. Well, thank you to your mother for sending that in, but the reason why we're seeing all of this not so nice weather is this area of low pressure. It's finally moving south, but look how big it is. That extensive cloud cover pretty much all the way south of Newfoundland and Labrador, all the way to pretty much just south of Nain right now is where we're seeing all of that cloud cover. So we're going to continue to see these showers, unfortunately, over the next couple of days as this area of low pressure continues to stick around. Look outside, not very nice out. 4 degrees right now is what it is in St. John's, with those winds gusting, or rather around 26 kilometers per hour at the moment. But we did see some pretty gusty winds earlier today. 100 kilometer per hour wind gusts in Twillingate recorded in the early morning hours. We're a little bit less than that, we're a lot less than that now, but we are going to see some breezy winds continue tomorrow. I'll have the full forecast coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. People are saving a bit of money at the pumps today. The province has cut its gas tax by about 7 cents a litre. This is what happened. It was 14.5 cents a litre and now down to 7.5 cents a litre. It's something that they promised last month. For diesel, the tax will go down to 9.5 cents per litre from 16.5 cents, which means people filling up with diesel will save just over 5 cents a litre today. The temporary cut to the gas tax will remain in place until the end of the year. The annual Energy Conference concluded in St. John's today. Some big announcements this week, starting with the restart of the West White Rose project and plenty of optimism about renewable energy projects. But today, as Terry Roberts reports, it was bookended with a notable update about the proposed and massive Bay du Nord project.
Here's the man many came to see today. He's in charge of the Canadian operations for Norwegian energy giant Equinor, and he came with some encouraging news about Bay du Nord.
The project is continuing at full speed, and there is significant work ongoing and ahead of us.
Bay du Nord is touted as being a game changer for the offshore, both financially and as part of the energy transition away from fossil fuels in the decades ahead. $16 billion in development costs, $10 billion in royalties to the province and the federal government, and daily production of up to 200,000 barrels. On the emissions front, Equinor is making some bold predictions.
Bay du Nord has the potential to be the lowest carbon intensity project of its scale in Canada and fits very well with our strategy.
Equinor is proposing a closed-loop flare system that will limit the need to burn off natural gas and use the heat created during oil production as a source of energy for the facility.
We are applying some new technology that even we, as one of the lowest carbon producers in the world, haven't used in this environment before.
Equinor is also investing heavily into innovation and technology, including robots and flying drones.
Human work is still needed, but the job content will change.
After 4 years of winding its way through the environmental process, Bay du Nord was approved by the federal government in April, but it's far from a done deal. The project team now has to convince those who hold the purse strings that it's a worthwhile investment. That will take about another 2 years, with first oil projected by the end of this decade.
I think the chances are very good. We need to mature it, and we need to see that we can develop it profitably.
But there's headwinds. There are major supply chain disruptions to consider, and Russia's invasion of Ukraine has caused even more upheaval in energy markets.
We are currently not able to accurately predict long-term pricing, important for the project, and availability of goods and services.
Equinor is reviewing submissions from companies that specialize in subsea infrastructure and the design and development of a production vessel. And later this month, Equinor's team will visit fabrication sites in the region to determine the level of work that can be accommodated in this province.
It's a great project. It's a huge step forward also for Equinor.
I mean, we're very happy. This has been a great week.
After 2 years of struggles, these delegates left the conference filled with hope, from an uptick in oil and gas potential to the increasing talk of wind and hydrogen projects. The energy seems to have returned to the energy sector.
So there's lots of opportunities on the horizon over the next, I'll say, from 6 months out to the next 5-6 years. I think it's just going to be great in the province.
There's new investors that we've never seen before here in the room with us now, talking about how Newfoundland and Labrador could be a hot spot in energy transition, especially around hydrogen, wind energy. Who would have thought that the thing that we live with every day, battle with every day, is possibly going to be our competitive advantage globally?
So what's next for Bay du Nord? Well, Equinor says it plans to submit a development application to the Offshore Energy Board sometime within the next 12 months. Of course, the company is also hoping for some new major oil discoveries during drilling exploration this summer. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
A former clerk and town manager of Conception Harbour made her first appearance in court today. Bonnie Lynn Wade is facing charges of theft, fraud, and breach of trust, including taking money from 14 town residents. Those accusations all date back to an 8-month stretch last year, and none of the allegations have been proven in court. Wade says she does not have a lawyer yet. Her case was set over until July. While federal Conservative leadership candidate Leslyn Lewis was in St. John's last night, the Ontario MP came in third during the last Conservative leadership race in 2020, but is hoping to have more success this September. Lewis is looking to restore trust in government and the media, which she believes has become a propaganda tool. Here now's Daryl Roberts reports.
Conservative leadership candidate Leslyn Lewis told this rally at the Hilton Garden Inn that COVID-19 mandates and political rhetoric are dividing Canadians.
Our society has become a society of cancel culture and wokeism, where we cannot even communicate with each other.
Speaking to a group of about 70 people, Lewis blamed this on the federal Liberals and the mainstream media, especially the CBC. Lewis, a social conservative from Ontario, believes she's the right choice to unite the country.
I want to make sure that we are a country that respects our Charter of Rights, our freedom of religion, our freedom of expression, our freedom of conscience, our freedom of assembly.
Participants of the Freedom Convoy, Lewis says, who occupied Ottawa for weeks, were unfairly demonized. Despite delivering a message of unity, Lewis focused on hot-button subjects like abortion, sharing her pro-life stance. She was also critical of vaccine mandates, saying the Prime Minister used them to pit Canadians against each other. Her calls to defund the CBC were met with applause.
I cannot see the value of why we're spending $1 billion on a propaganda machine.
The audience last night was much smaller than the hundreds fellow candidate Pierre Poilievre drew at his event in the city a few weeks ago. Poilievre also has the endorsement of Clifford Small, the only Newfoundland and Labrador Conservative MP, but supporters say Lewis stands out from the other candidates. Julie Bilton, a self-employed mother of two from Portugal Cove, St. Phillips, attended the rally.
Here's a candidate who actually is talking about the things we need to talk about, is talking about bringing people together, is talking about ending some of the mandates and policies that have been hurting our country, hurting our economy.
Bilton says she swore off voting Conservative, but Lewis changed her mind. The federal Conservatives are expected to choose a new leader in September. Daryl Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, staying with some national news for a moment, Ottawa's former police chief says authorities weren't equipped to deal with the so-called Freedom Convoy protests in the winter. Peter Slowly shared his views during an appearance before a parliamentary committee today.
This was an unprecedented national security crisis for which our institutions were not fully prepared.
Slowly resigned in February amid heavy criticism of his handling of the protest, which lasted for more than 3 weeks. Today, he said the protests represent a, quote, paradigm shift in the kinds of security events facing Ottawa. He said the street in front of Parliament Hill should be closed to vehicles to prevent security threats. Slowly also said he didn't ask the governing Liberals to evoke the Emergencies Act to clear the streets. Liberal cabinet ministers said they consulted with police before taking that step. A woman in Halifax who was just looking for a fun way to get some exercise recently ended up rolling down memory lane. She made a fluke garage sale find that took her back to her teens. The CBC's Josh Hoffman has this Cinderella story.
Renee Forstall hadn't laced up a pair of roller skates in more than 40 years. She wanted to try it again as a fun way to exercise, so she bought new skates last month. She practiced for a week, but they didn't fit right. Not like the ones she had when she was young. So she searched online classified sites and quickly found a similar pair in questionable condition.
They said, well, here it is, if that you think that's going to fit your foot, you're welcome to try it. And I thought, it's a bit dodge. So I kept kind of scrolling. I thought, but $40, that's a good deal. So I kind of and I thought they do look like the ones I used to have.
Forstall says when she first saw them, they were pretty dirty. But once she got her foot in one of the skates, she knew she found a good fit.
It's like a Cinderella and the slipper moment. It was very strange. It was like a perfect fit. I couldn't believe it, and they felt good.
Forstall says she started asking the seller when he got the skates, when things got even stranger.
As he's telling me, I flipped back the tongue, and there's my name. And I was like, what? And I couldn't even believe it. I thought, how? And then I said, this is me. These were mine. When I saw my name, and I kind of, the shock kind of absorbed, and I felt tears welling up in my eyes.
Watching this all take place was James Bond, the man selling the skates. Bond says the moment filled his heart with joy.
When she saw her name written on the insides, she just started tearing up. And I thought that was so cool. I feel like they could make a Disney movie out of the whole thing.
For Forstall, it can't be a coincidence. She felt a desire to roller skate again, she logged online to find the right pair, and she was reunited with her 40-plus-year-old skates.
Things come around for a reason.
Josh Hoffman, CBC News, Halifax.
I can't say there was much of a movement in the temperatures today. We went from 4 to 5 degrees and then back down to 4 degrees. There is some warmth, though, in the forecast. Don't worry, I'll get into those details coming up.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. Absolute final deadline is midnight tomorrow. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Well, before we get to the weather, we just want to show you this. Police in Charlottetown, PEI, had a pretty unusual passenger in their squad car yesterday. But no, he wasn't in trouble.
No, he wasn't. According to social media, the owl was injured by attacking crows, and then police responded to the call and then safely transported the bird to Wildlife Department.
Yeah, no word on whether or not they arrested the crows, though.
They probably should have. Oh, look at that guy. Beautiful.
I gotta say, though, I wonder if the whole time they were singing the CSI theme song, you know, who are you, who, you know.
That's a good one.
He could join in there.
That's a good one.
Okay, enough of my bad humor. Let's get to the weather forecast, although it's not much better than my humor these days.
It is not much better than your humor, Peter. I'm sorry to say, it is not a lovely day out there. I mean, what are we now, 3 days into this, I guess, in some areas? You know, 5-6 degrees today is the daytime highs. Definitely isn't nice for the first part of June. Let's take a look at what's going on, but don't worry, there is some warmth in the forecast. I just have to put that out there. But it is, and was, I should say, 11 degrees in Marystown today. 14 in Burgeo, that was the hot spot this afternoon, and then temperatures didn't quite reach the double digits in Lab City. You sat around 9 degrees for most of the day, but Churchill Falls did. You sat around 10 degrees through the afternoon. And taking a look out there across the board, Port Rexon seeing some rain, Holyrood as well as Gander, some drizzle and fog, but head to the west coast. It looks absolutely gorgeous today. Some blue sky there with some pretty cool clouds there as well. So a great evening for you. And then just taking a look at some of the visibilities being reported across the island and parts of Labrador, 2.5 or nearly 2.5 kilometers for Cartwright, but down to 400 meters again in St. John. So we're definitely seeing lots of RDF in those northeast facing coasts, or northeast coast rather. And that will generally continue as we head through the night tonight. Again, this large area of low pressure is what's driving that. The further away you get, though, from that towards the coast, west coast and south coast, is much nicer weather through the day today, and will be the story really. So you can see some of those showers moving through. This is generally going to be what we'll be dealing with through the night tonight, even through a good chunk of tomorrow afternoon as well. But those temperatures are chilly. 4 degrees in Bonavista right now. Same thing for Terra Nova, 2 in Twillingate. And then as you head towards coastal areas of Labrador, Makkovik, you're hovering around 0 degrees at the moment. Now, just south of that, into Cartwright, we've got a rainfall warning right now. Environment Canada issued that a little bit earlier today. You're still expecting to see another 10, maybe even 20 millimeters on top of what you've seen today. And that will bring those totals somewhere between 40 and 60 millimeters of rain really through the end of tomorrow as far as that goes. So taking a look, you can see just that area, Cartwright to in that vicinity is seeing all of that rain, and it's really only localized to you. The rest of the northeast coast across the island is seeing that onshore flow with drizzle and showers through the day, and we're going to continue to see that through the night tonight. Really nothing else going on other than that. But you can see the area of low pressure. I thought I'd just show you this because it looks pretty cool. This area of low pressure, just how large the water vapor, this is the water vapor that's up in the higher atmosphere. So you can see where that's coming from. And if we zoom in, you can see just right in that area is exactly where we're seeing all of that rainfall. So that is going to stick around. Like I said, the heaviest rain will be tonight. It should taper to showers tomorrow. But unfortunately, the drizzle and patchy fog, is going to stick around through Sunday for you. So here's your temperatures for tonight. Not moving too much again, anywhere from 3 to 6 degrees really. The winds out of the north between 30 to 50 kilometers per hour tonight. And then across Labrador between 1 and 3 degrees, but not a whole lot of wind to speak of until you get to the coast. So tomorrow, like I said, those showers, the rain should taper to showers and drizzle for you for Cartwright. Otherwise, onshore flow again, which means patchy drizzle, patchy fog, and maybe even a few showers lingering for the eastern half of the island. But this model is picking up on the chance we may see a break in the cloud cover. just maybe, through the day tomorrow. Up across Labrador, though, especially towards the north, you are looking at another lovely day as far as that sunshine goes. And that's generally the story as we head into the afternoon again. This area of low pressure will eventually lose its grip on us, and actually those winds are going to start to die down as well the further away from you get. But still going to stay a bit breezy for the Avalon. We're looking at northerly winds gusting between 30 and 50 kilometers per hour. Temperatures in the single digits again through central. South coast, though, 11 degrees tomorrow with some peaks of sun in the mix. Towards the west coast, winds a lot less. North, though, still 20 kilometers per hour, but your temperatures should be between 11 and 14 degrees, maybe some lingering showers through the Humber Valley. Northern Peninsula, southeastern Labrador, you're still looking at your temperatures between 3 to 7 degrees, a lot less wind for you as well. And then the nicest weather will be towards Lab City again. Should reach 15 degrees tomorrow, 8 in Nain under sunny skies. So let's look at the forecast for tomorrow. We'll look ahead when I come back.
There is an emotional attachment, there's no question.
After 30 years, the chairs from the House of Assembly have been replaced. Why the old ones are a unique part of history, and why politicians want to see some of them saved. If you've been watching this sitting in the House of Assembly, you might notice something is different about the chamber behind me. I want you to take a close look, a really close look. It's the chairs. And you may be wondering, well, what's a big deal about the chairs in the House of Assembly? But the ones that are retired have a special part of history. So I'm going to sit down with the Speaker to find out why they were replaced. So tell me about the history of these chairs that we're sitting on here.
So these chairs, they came when the House was redone back in the early 1990s. So they are original to the House of Assembly are now.
And I guess the leather in particular is special because this is sealskin leather.
All of our records indicate that they are sealskin. We have nothing to really confirm that, but going back through Hansard and other discussions that, from the House of Assembly, all indications are they are leather, sealskin.
So why did you decide to retire these chairs?
Obviously, they're 30 years old. The condition of all the chairs, most of them, the leather or the sealskin has torn. A number of the bottoms have been welded over the years. And obviously, the ergonomics of the chair is not for today's, I guess, health and well-being of members.
Yeah, I know, talking to a bunch of MHAs, a lot of them complained about how uncomfortable these chairs are. I know some people, for example, had to bring like an obus form to put behind their back, with all the hours that they spend in debates sitting in these chairs.
Right. No, exactly. And like I say, there's times we're sitting in the assembly 10, 12 hours. There's nights we're there till midnight, so members need something with some comfort. And like I say, these chairs are 30 plus years old, so they have lived their life, and we decided during 2021 budget that we would allocate the funds to replace them with a black leather chair.
So how much are the new chairs costing?
New chairs, we purchased 45, and they came in at a cost of about $37,500, tax included.
Why go with a traditional sort of black basic chair? Why not maybe commission something new? For example, I know, even the Iqaluit legislature, they've taken a more traditional office chair, but they put the sealskin on it, again, to just kind of have that symbolic.
I think a lot of it, partially it was financial. The costs, we did some costing back about approximately 10 years ago, and it was estimated then about $125,000 to replace them then. So the cost was obviously a factor in it, but also with going with the traditional black leather, if a chair gets torn or broken, it's much easier to replace without having to replace all 40.
And so what's going to happen to these chairs? Because they may be office chairs, but I guess they're also a bit of piece of history.
There is a lot of history to them, yes. So right now there's no decision. They're put in storage. That will be a decision of the Management Commission. So in a future meeting, we will decide at the Management Commission meeting what's going to be done with these chairs. There's a number of people inquiring on what we're going to do, but that's not my decision. That would be a decision of the Management Commission.
Do you have any thoughts yourself, though, on what you'd like to see happen to them?
Not right now. I've had just members ask me if they can purchase them, or if they will, or if they can be used in another venue somewhere. So there's, personally, no, I'm open for different options, and I'll listen to what the Management Commission has to offer.
Well, thank you very much for sharing a bit of this piece of history.
Yeah, no, they're beautiful chairs, and like I say, they served their time, and obviously, if we could have replaced them with sealskin at a reasonable price, we would have looked at that option. But given our financial situation right now, we thought going with a black traditional leather would be the most economical thing.
Well, one person has probably spent more time than anyone else sitting in those old chairs, and that's Tom Osborne, who has served as an MHA for 26 years. I asked him what he thinks should happen to them, and he has some opinions.
Well, the others are very ordinary office chairs. There's no question about it. They don't have the same significance as the chairs that had seal leather on them. So there is. I mean, there's a lot of, for me, there's a lot of emotional attachment to these. We've had some pretty significant legislation, debate, many filibusters, long hours sitting in some of these chairs. Like I said, I think it's important that we ensure we keep a couple of them in an area. It'd be nice to see some of them maybe in the scrum area. We've got the ones pre-91 and these being post-91. So yes, there is an emotional attachment, there's no question.
Well, stay tuned tomorrow on CBC Radio for morning show listeners across the island, from the backyard to your back burner. If you're looking for a way to get rid of knotweed or goutweed in your garden, tune in because there is an expert on how to deal with those pesky plants and even how to bake them. That's tomorrow on the St. John's Morning Show. And on Newfoundland Morning, that's also on Newfoundland Morning, but on the Go, join host Anthony Germain. He's tackling minimum wage legislation with the St. John's Board of Trade. The show starts at 4 o'clock on the island, half an hour earlier in most parts of Labrador. By some estimates, more than half of the province has had COVID-19. That should give you some immunity, but just how long does that last? And could you get reinfected? All of this as health officials start thinking about a new virus that's spreading, monkeypox. Well, Rod Russell is a professor of virology and immunology at Memorial University. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Peter.
So let's first start by talking about the virus that we're used to dealing with, COVID. A lot of people are wondering, how much protection do they have after they've already had COVID? What does the research show here?
Yeah, the research shows that we still have this 2 to 3 month window after that we saw with vaccines as well. So you have 2 or 3 months, usually, most people, after vaccination or infection with COVID, where you can expect to be immune to reinfection. Although there are exceptions, some people have been infected as early as 35 days after recovering from COVID. But in general, most people have 2 to 3 months then where they're pretty much immune to reinfection. But then that, as the antibody levels drop in the blood, then you can get infected again.
So for people who may have had it, especially during, I'm thinking like February and March, when we saw sort of that big surge of cases here, now that we're, March, April, May, June, you're starting to get into that 3 or 4 month window. What does that mean on an individual level when people are trying to figure out, do I need to wear a mask? Do I need to physically distance, be concerned about who I'm interacting with?
Right. So I'm one of those people. I had COVID over 2 months ago now myself, and I'm exactly there. So I'm at a point now where I believe I could probably get infected again. And at that point, it's a personal choice, right? The question is, are you worried about getting infected yourself? If you've recovered, you don't have to worry too much. The question is the same then as always, right? Are you going to protect the people around you and in your small world, we'll say? So in general, whether you were infected or if you have had your vaccines recently, the immune response that you made, the cellular response that you made will keep you from getting too sick. So again, it's still a question of, are you worried about getting infected yourself, or are you worried about spreading to other people? And if you are around vulnerable people, or if you are worried about spreading the virus to someone else, then you still have to take some precautions.
And I guess it's a good point that you were kind of getting at there around, even though we may lose the protections from getting COVID again, we still have protections from both the vaccine and from the infection in terms of more severe disease and making this a milder form.
Right. And that's what we're seeing, that in general, after 2, 3, some people have had 4 shots of vaccine now and may have also been infected. The more exposures you've had to to the vaccine or the virus, then the more your immune system has seen it, and hopefully the better you're able to deal with it if you get infected again. So we are seeing this trend toward milder disease once you're infected, even if it's a reinfection.
I want to ask you about monkeypox, because a lot of people are now starting to be concerned about it. We've seen, I guess, a few cases within Canada, none that we know about in Newfoundland and Labrador. But how concerned are you about this emerging disease?
It depends on how you look at it, right? This is not going to be the next COVID as we know it right now. This is a virus that's been around for years. It's just new to us in North America, we'll say, right? But there are countries in Africa that have seen 1,000 cases a year for years of monkeypox. So this is new to our region, but it's not new to the globe or to the world. So if it were going to cause a global pandemic, then we would have already seen that. So I'm not worried at the pandemic level. This is not another COVID. It doesn't spread as easily as COVID. So in that sense, we won't have to worry about lockdowns and mask mandates and stuff for this virus. But on an individual level, this virus can have as high as a 10% mortality rate. So as many as 1 in 10 people infected could die. So, on an individual level, this is not a virus that we should disregard or joke about, because nobody wants to get infected with this. It's like chickenpox. The symptoms, you get the rash and you get these sores, and they can leave scars. So, nobody wants their child to have these scars on their face from this. So it's not something we should, dismiss, but it's also not something we should be worried about at the pandemic level.
Well, let's hope that we don't have to have regular conversations about monkeypox in the same way we have had about COVID, but I appreciate your insights as always.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Well, staying with COVID, a group of high school students in the Annapolis Valley feel they're being shortchanged. Despite no restrictions in their hometown, their school is insisting upon splitting the graduates up into groups. As the CBC's Paul Palmer reports, those students are pushing back.
Many of the 200 grads at Avonview High School want to see a change to their grad plans. The administration at the school wants to hold grad ceremonies in 4 blocks of 50 to keep groups small. But students say with no COVID restrictions in place, they should be able to hold a normal graduation with everyone in the school gym.
We don't have any restrictions and there's no limits, so we can have as many as we want. We should make it even better than before.
The last 2 years saw drastic changes to grad ceremonies due to COVID. Cochrane was one student who created an online petition that saw 1,600 people sign it in just 2 days.
I want to have a grad that I can see our valedictorian, my friends, everybody go up on the stage, get their awards that they earned through their 13 years of school.
I feel like our school board and our principal right now is definitely feeling the heat, because we are now making our voices loud enough that they can hear us. At first, they were disregarding what our feelings were. They told us to get over ourselves.
Adding salt to the wounds for the Avonview students is the fact many other high schools are planning normal graduations. After the petition went viral, the school administration sent out a survey to parents and students to get their input.
That's why they created a survey and sent that out to the grade 12 graduating class as well as their parents to get a sense of what they want. They'll gather that information at the end of this week, and then they'll work with the School Advisory Council to determine the best steps moving forward.
Students are hoping that could open the door to a potential change.
I know it's a lot of people and it's a long time to sit there and watch everybody individually go up on the stage, but I would personally love to see everyone that I've grown up with go across that stage and graduate.
Paul Pometer, CBC News, Windsor.
As we talked about earlier in the show, a group of 29 Ukrainian refugees is en route to St. John's tonight, arriving from Warsaw, Poland. The other passengers will continue on to other parts of Canada. Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister is meeting with her counterparts from the Baltic region today. Melanie Joly and her colleagues are meeting to discuss the latest on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Top of the agenda for all involved is how to best help people of Ukraine and ensure their safety in the days and months to come.
Further to Putin's war of choice and invasion of Ukraine, we announced that we would be furthering our support to the eastern flank of NATO. We had already 700 Canadian Armed Forces on site in Riga, and we announced that we would be adding 450 of them. Plus personnel, we're around right now 1,300 people that are stationed and working in Riga, in Latvia. Food insecurity and energy insecurity cause more chaos and more conflict. This is exactly what Putin wants, and we cannot let him succeed.
Ottawa's former police chief says authorities weren't equipped to deal with the so-called Freedom Convoy protest this winter. Peter Slowly shared his views during an appearance before a parliamentary committee today. Rafi Boudjikanian has more.
2 weeks in, the protest convoy ended the 3-decade career of the former head of Ottawa Police. Today, despite public pronouncements by the movement's organizers on intending to stay, Peter Slowly insisted the force did not have adequate intel on what they'd be facing.
The intelligence, the totality of the experience within the Canadian policing and national security agencies had never seen and dealt with a demonstration, occupation, illegal actions of the nature in and around the events of the Freedom Convoy.
Slowly left the job under immense pressure and accusations of inaction in mid-February, just a day after the federal government invoked the Emergencies Act providing police extra powers to end the protest. The former chief today said the only recent event he could compare to the convoy was not in this country.
January 6th in the United States, Washington, D.C. would be a closer aspect.
But this parliamentary committee is just as preoccupied with what comes next, specifically on the future of Wellington Street around Parliament Hill.
We really need to think about hardening and reducing access while still allowing the Charter of Rights freedoms for protest and gathering, etc. Incrementalism in policing in general, I have fought against for the majority of my career.
Wellington's been shut to traffic ever since police removed the convoy. With the area also including the Prime Minister's office, there are suggestions restrictions should be tightened and made permanent. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
The man who shot and killed 4 people at a medical building in Oklahoma yesterday had been a patient of one of the victims, a surgeon who had performed back surgery on him. Tulsa's police chief spoke about the deadly incident at a press conference today.
We have also found a letter on the suspect which made it clear that he came in with the intent to kill Dr. Phillips and anyone who got in his way.
The suspect, Michael Lewis, bought the rifle hours before opening fire. He blamed Dr. Preston Phillips for his continuing back pain after recent surgery. He had called the clinic about the problem repeatedly and saw the surgeon about it on Tuesday. Lewis died of a gunshot wound after killing Dr. Phillips, another doctor, a receptionist, and a patient. Authorities believe he killed himself. Celebrations kicked off this morning in the UK for the Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee, honouring her record-setting 70 years on the throne. The monarch and members of the royal family watched from the balcony at Buckingham Palace. The CBC's Chris Brown has the highlights.
On a day when Britain looked its best, the most significant moment came on the balcony of Buckingham Palace, featuring 4 generations of royals. The Queen was joined by 3 future kings, her son Prince Charles, his son Prince William, and his son 8-year-old Prince George. Her big smile conveyed more than any words could. The commemoration of 70 years of her reign was a precisely organized celebration that went off precisely as planned.
For the colour.
It began with the over 260-year-old tradition of trooping the colour. Charles, William, and the Queen's daughter, Princess Anne, led the procession to Horse Guards Parade. The Queen used to ride herself or came by carriage, but at 96 years old on this day, she watched with her cousin, the Duke of Kent. This is Britain's first Platinum Jubilee and maybe the only one ever. For some here, it's a chance to say thank you to the Queen for a job well done. For others, it's almost a farewell. These Canadians hope not.
There's plenty of life left in the old girl. Definitely. She's not on her way out. I don't care what anyone says. She is an amazing lady.
The Queen has worked hard all her life, and it's nice to, celebrate it.
All in all, a strong display of the monarchy's future is what the Queen was striving for, says this royal expert.
We've got 3 heirs to succeed her, Charles, William and George. So the monarchy actually in that respect is in pretty good shape. I think that's the Queen projecting that image of unity, a big family, a family united.
The Queen appeared most engaged by the Royal Air Force fly past, with her great-grandson, 4-year-old Prince Louis, covering his ears from the noise of the aircraft. But the palace said the event also gave the Queen some discomfort, so she'll skip Friday's church service. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
So cool! Excited. We're so excited!
While it may not be the royal jubilee, but Queen Elizabeth sure received the royal treatment when visiting Newfoundland and Labrador. Her last trip to the province in 1997, when she joined the crowds in Bonavista for the Cabot 500 celebration. We've dipped into the Here Now archives to bring you a blast from royal visits past from some Here and Now considers to be royalty. That's our own Debbie Cooper.
Thousands of people had gathered at Kitty Vitty, and the Queen and her husband waded through the crowds. It was July 26th. Regatta Day was early that year. The Queen watched some of the races and chatted with some rowers. Then she went on to the War Memorial on Duckworth Street to lay a wreath for the soldiers who died in both World Wars. Later, she stopped at Memorial University, where she turned the sod for construction of the Queen Elizabeth Library. In 1959, Queen Elizabeth II stopped in Newfoundland for a one-day visit. She was greeted at the airport by Governor-General Vincent Massey and Prime Minister Diefenbaker. It was her first visit since becoming Queen.
Interesting to see some of that old footage of the Queen, especially contrasted with the footage we saw of her today. Quite a few years ago, though, between those two different shots.
Just a few years.
So we saw the weather in London looked pretty nice out there, out on the balcony. It's a good thing we're not trying to have a similar outdoor activity today. What about the weekend, though? As we look ahead, are things going to improve for Saturday, Sunday?
There is a good chance we could see some improvement, certainly in the forecast. I think we're going to say goodbye to the single digits in most areas. Hopefully. Let's take a look at what's going on as we head through Friday evening into Saturday. So like I said, tomorrow night, there's a good chance, or no, there is a chance, I should say, that we will see some clearing skies, at least for a little bit. But as we head into Saturday afternoon, that area of low pressure is going to continue to move further east. And we may see a little bit of clearing. Now, the winds will shift a bit too, which will hopefully get rid of some of that RDF across the province, but there is a chance we could see some flurries again Saturday morning through parts of Labrador. Lab West, though, you're going to stay out of the clear, or in the clear, through the day on Saturday. But again, best chance that we'll see the nicest weather will be on the southern areas of the island. So we're talking temperatures likely still hanging on to the double or single digits through Gander. I still have you around 7 degrees. Same thing for the northern peninsula, but other areas across the island should reach between 10 and 13 degrees through the day, depending on how much sunshine we see. Right now, I do have that sun peeking out for St. John's and a high near 10 degrees. Going to continue to see that RDF, though, for coastal areas of Labrador, like I said, right through the day on Saturday. 4 degrees in Cartwright, 8 in Happy Valley Goose Bay, and again, there is the chance you could see a few flurries in the mix in either the morning or the evening hours, just because your temperatures will be a bit cooler. But a beautiful day in Lab City. Again, 15 degrees will be the daytime high for you. Now, as we head into Saturday evening, the area of low pressure starts to get a bit closer. So by Sunday morning, northern areas of northern peninsula, southeastern Labrador, and really all along the northeast coast, not including the Avalon though, we'll likely see some more showers to start the day. We may see that linger as we get into the evening hours, but overall it will be an unsettled day. The further you get away from that, though, looks lovely. 14 degrees in Port aux Basques, 14 in Marystown as well. At this point, I have 13 degrees for St. John's with some cloudy periods through the day, but if we see a few lingering showers, I wouldn't be surprised. Otherwise, unsettled temperatures are going to start to warm up for you along the coast of the Big Land. Temperatures will stay, it should stay anyway, between 10 and 15 degrees as we get into next week, as far as the temperatures go for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland. And then for central Newfoundland, you're looking at a few showers on Monday. Tuesday, look at that, 21 degrees, 18 for western Newfoundland. So definitely an improvement in the forecast. And as far as eastern Labrador goes, nice warm up for you as well, 15 to 19 degrees for next week, and then reaching the 20-degree mark for western Labrador as we get into Tuesday. Here's a shot, a wintry day in Hopedale. This was yesterday. Wayne shared this great shot with us. And if you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, you can send them to my Facebook page, Twitter, and or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Ashley, I feel like before we go, I should probably apologize to people in Western Labrador because friends I talk to there, I always say, your weather is always worse than anywhere else and you make us feel better. Except right now. They've got the best weather in the province.
Yep,
so that's definitely the place to be.
Absolutely.
And that is it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching, everyone.
Good night.